everyone. I'm just waiting as people trickle in here. My name is Erin Ruggieri, and I am one of the marketing coordinators for the School of Health Sciences at BCIT. And I just want to welcome you to the Nuclear Medicine Information Session. Our topic today, of course, is the Nuclear Medicine program here at BCIT. Our presenters will be Thomas Wong and Christy Owen, our co-program heads. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few things. First being that the British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam. Now, as we get started, I just wanted to kind of go over some ground rules, I guess, for the session. If you could please leave yourself on mute during the session just to eliminate any interference back and forth. As you notice, the session is being recorded, and that means that you don't have to scramble to take any notes down. This recording and a copy of the slide deck will be emailed to you about 10 days from now. So everybody who registered gets a copy of the recording and a copy of the slide deck, and then you'll be able to review that at a later time. So we're starting off with our welcome and introductions. That's kind of the part I'm doing right now. And I'm going to share a nuclear medicine program video that we made just before the pandemic with you. And then we're going to have our presentation and program overview, some information about program advising, and at the end, we'll have time for a question and answer. Now, the question and answer is at the end, but if you have questions as we go along, feel free to put those into the chat function. Meninder from Program Advising is on the call here, and she can answer your questions as we go along and as Thomas and Christy take turns speaking to the program. So our next thing is actually going to be the video.
I don't think of it as a job. I don't have to dread going to work in the morning. It's a wonderful feeling to get up and love what you do. Quality control is of utmost importance with nuclear medicine. So tracers that we prepare for our patients will make or break their diagnoses, and the highest quality is necessary to get the best images for these patients. What I love about nuclear medicine is how it blends both science and people skills. So I get to work in a lab and use really fancy high-tech equipment, but I also get to work with patients and make a difference, hopefully, in their lives. And it's a great balance to have a blend of both worlds.
All right, everyone take a look at this heart model here.
So the BCIT nuclear medicine program is the only nuclear medicine training program in British Columbia. Our students are taught through a combination of in-class learning, simulated lab activities, and hands-on clinical practice. The biggest advantage of students working in the clinical setting is that they are allowed to take the knowledge that they gained and apply it to real-life practice and develop competency in the skills that they need to do the profession.
The instructors at BCIT, they know exactly what's expected of a graduate technologist, so I feel that they know exactly how to prepare us to be working in the field when we graduate.
Usually by the end of the test, I can take the most fearful patient and make them feel like they've had a really good time with us here in nuclear medicine. Sometimes you can really get to know patients and you feel like you're really making a difference in their lives. That's really rewarding.
I hope you guys enjoyed that video. We really had a lot of fun making that just before the pandemic hit, and you might notice one of the instructors in that video as we continue on here. So I'd like to introduce Christy and Thomas now. I'm not sure which one of you is starting first, but would we like to do the poll first? I think that's a yes. Okay.
Yes, sorry.
I'm going to launch this poll question just to see how much everyone knows about nuclear medicine. Okay, I'm going to share the results there. We can all see them. Christy, are we right?
You guys, in fact, are so intelligent. Definitely right. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so Christy and Thomas, I'll let you take it from here.
Sure. Yeah. So I can start. So my name's Christy Owen, and I share the program head role with Thomas, as Aaron said. And today we really want you guys to kind of see a little bit about what nuclear medicine is all about. What does our program look like, and get an idea for the culture that we build for a student here in our nuclear medicine program. So we hope you enjoy this presentation. Right. So we just sort of buzzed you guys to see if you knew what nuclear medicine is all about, but nuclear medicine in a real simple sense is uses biological tracers with a little bit of radioactive material, and we produce images that diagnose, treat, and manage disease. So this is a picture of a bone scan. This is one of the scans we do quite often, looking for lots of different types of pathologies here. So this one, for example, is a little bit of a radioactive material tagged to a phosphate and injected intravenously into a patient, and we take a whole body image to look for any disease. So fun facts about nuclear medicine as a career. This is sort of an interesting thing to note, is that a lot of the types of imaging modalities like radiography are actually 24/7 on call type of job. So typically nuclear medicine is not. It's sort of like a Monday to Friday. There are some hospitals who do have weekend shifts, but typically it's Monday to Friday daytime hours. We perform both diagnostic and therapeutic procedures, and we do actually quite a high variety of different types of scans every day, which keeps things really interesting. Our technology incorporates a lot of the sciences. So if you have an aptitude for science, then this is really ideal for you. We use like a lot of high-end technology. We use laboratory science. We lots of physics, a little bit of chemistry, anatomy and physiology, pathology, and all that sort of stuff. And it's a balance between, like I said, the technology, the lab, and having the opportunity to really impact patient outcome with direct patient care. So we do actually, make a difference in patients' lives, which is something that we're proud of. Most of our departments are in a hospital setting. There are a few private clinics. Unlike the rest of Canada, I would say that we're typically more in hospital, and if as you go east, there's more private clinics of nuclear medicine. Also, something interesting about nuclear medicine is we don't just use like one type of piece of equipment. Typically, we use a gamma camera, but that can be a SPECT CT, a PET CT, and there's also PET MR that's up and coming these days too. So we are hybrid imaging, and that allows us to be cross-trained as technologists and just offers you guys more job opportunities in the future. Pass on to Thomas.
All right. Yeah. So speaking of kind of the training at BCIT, this is a picture of our brand new gamma camera, which is a SPECT CT scanner located at BCIT. We just moved into a brand new health sciences center in September. And what you'll find in our classrooms and our labs at BCIT is that it really does simulate what it would feel like in a hospital setting. So we do provide kind of that hands-on training while you're in the program on campus. So I just wanted to kind of talk about our program, kind of the structure and how the training kind of happens. So we are a continuous 24-month program, and we do have smaller class sizes. So we do take in 16 students at a time. And the way it kind of works in terms of the structure is it's a 2-year program. In the first year, primarily you're learning the theory, learning kind of some of that foundational knowledge behind what we do in the field. And really that first year gears you for that clinical practice. So in that first, after kind of 2 terms at BCIT, you spend a full summer in clinical. So a full 12 weeks out in clinical, where you get a feel for what it's like to be a technologist on a day-to-day basis and start applying some of what you learned in that first year in clinical practice. As you move into the second year becomes more of a mix between clinical and academic courses at BCIT. So we kind of do an alternating 2-week type of design where you spend 2 weeks at BCIT doing theory courses, and then you switch and you go out to the hospitals and the clinics to do 2 weeks of clinical, and you're kind of doing that back and forth. So you're constantly being able to kind of learn a little bit at BCIT and then apply it directly into clinical setting. And all that kind of gears up to the final summer where you spend another kind of full summer out in clinical to really tie it all together and be ready to kind of enter the workforce as a nuclear medicine technologist. So with our program, it is a big component of it, in addition to the courses, is the clinical piece. So the clinical practicum is made up of 40 weeks of clinical, and they are a full-time week. So you are spending 35 hours per week, so 7 hours a day at clinical. Clinical sites are throughout the Lower Mainland, as well as on Vancouver Island. And recently we added the BC Interior as primary sites for clinical training. There are other options to do some additional training at other sites. For example, not all, we also potentially could have some clinical training done up north in Northern Health. There are some sites that we can have that partnership with. Each student in the program will spend primarily most of their time at 4 different clinical sites. And again, we do scatter some training at Children's, at PET, and kind of doing some specialized training at those other sites as well. So I think now I'll throw it back over to Christy, and she'll kind of talk a little bit about kind of the jobs and what to expect with respect to kind of job opportunities.
Sorry, guess I should unmute. I should know that by now, right? Yeah, so I guess I'll just talk a little bit about what does it look like once you graduate here? Well, I can tell you that if you want to have a job pretty much right away or before you graduate, this is really an excellent option for you. Our grads are scooped up. Last summer, they were scooped up well before graduation, and 100% of our grads also were hired right away. So some of them got casual positions. There have been some who've worked outside of BC across Canada, although of course we want you to stay in BC because there's a massive shortage right now. And there's some who've got permanent jobs right away. So typically there's a range between casual and permanent. Probably the more common sort of job outlook is casual, which allows you to work at multiple different sites, which is kind of fun while you're trying to figure out which one is a good fit for you, and allows you to choose a little bit more of your schedule, so have a little bit more control over your own schedule. But yeah, there have been both upon graduation. That's the first time that's happened in years. So the job outlook is incredible right now, and I know that there's people just hoping and wishing for us to produce more grads. So that's exciting. And as far as, okay, so you can be a nuclear medicine technologist when you graduate, but what else can you be? And so there's lots of different areas that you can branch into. And so you can go ahead there, Erin, and go to the next slide. So nuclear medicine technology does give you an option to branch into either further education. So a lot of our technologists have taken the MRI program to be cross-trained. There's been ultrasound training, CT, other imaging modalities, but not just that. Some have gone on for other further education, or some have just been scooped up by vendors or other informatic type companies. Like the latest change in the hospitals has been implementation of a patient database, and so there's been a few jobs with that. Within the hospital, you can be move up to supervising a department, medical imaging director, regional practice lead. So there's lots of leadership opportunities there within our kind of role of options. And there's a lot of old nuclear medicine techs that are in leadership positions that we know. And nuclear medicine is a very, very small community, so we do tend to keep track of kind of where everybody ends up. So it's really interesting to see. So our vendors can hire you, like such as Siemens or GE, for training other sites when they get new equipment, like an application specialist, or for sales, that sort of thing. There's also a lot of options right now with the new research and development of PET or positron emission tomography tracers. So there's research happening, and so there's like people looking for radiochemists all over the place, running cyclotrons. Working in the PET labs, radiation safety officers as well in all of our departments. So I think that pretty much covered it. Yeah, so I will pass my torch on to one of our awesome students. So Muskan is currently a first-year student in our program, and she is a very awesome student to have in class and very passionate about nuclear medicine. So I hope that she shares her passion with you.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Christy. That's really sweet of you.
And I think Christy said that I was going to prompt you with some questions. So why don't we, unless you have some stuff you prepared that you want to say, I can prompt you with some questions.
let's start off with some questions and then see where that leads us.
Sounds good. So why did you choose nuclear medicine at BCIT? What led you to BCIT?
Well, my dad graduated from BCIT and he loved it. And he really wanted me to look into something with technology. And then I had an aptitude for science. And then science and technology kind of led me to nuclear medicine. And yeah, I guess the rest is history.
And what's been the favorite, or your favorite thing about the program, or favorite things about the program so far?
I absolutely love the labs. The labs are an integral part. We're actually like QCing and making the radiopharmaceuticals in labs. So that really gives us hands-on exposure and lots of practice. And I absolutely love the faculty because you can have the most amazing program, you can have the most amazing, I guess, equipment, but what you need to succeed are people who would stand behind you. And I guess this faculty is absolutely amazing and they've stood behind me and they've always wanted me to succeed.
Yeah, I think one of the neat things about this program is because it's so small and because you all will end up working together in some capacity in the future and kind of be part of that nuclear medicine community, they're really kind of instilled that in you right in the beginning. They're here to get you to join part of the community, right?
We're already family, I think.
That's awesome. Any recommendations that you would share with people who are considering this as a field?
I would say do your research, come in for student for a day. We'd all love to see you, and I think it's a really good opportunity to come in and check out the space, talk to the instructors, and yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to actually mention the Spend a Day program a little bit later on, so I'll
sorry.
a link to that as well later on, so that'd be great. Thank you for mentioning that. Anything else you wanted to share with people on the call?
What I can say is I'm excited for the summer clinical that's coming up soon, and I absolutely love how this program incorporates clinicals. I think I would like to say we're more focused on active learning, and we spend more time in the clinical than in class. So that really prepares us for when we're going into the hospitals and when we're looking for jobs. We already know people, we're going in and they know us, and that's how you get hired.
That's great.
Good question for you, Muscat.
Go ahead.
Yes.
We have pretty small class sizes. So our cohorts for first year start around 16 students, and then in second year you're broken up into smaller sets. Which so comment if you can on how you feel about working with, it's a small group of students that you get to know really well, and then also just how that impacts your labs and things like that if you want.
Right. So having small classes and even small sets later on, I think that helps you build a good relationship with people around you. And you actually, instead of fighting each other, you're all together. We want to support each other. We want all of us to make it through. And you build this connection with people around you. And then we all feel like we're on the same boat. And we're all a tiny little family of the students. And then we have faculty as our extended family. And then we have our whole community later on. But I think, yeah, it's very nice to have the same people around you. And it's tough in the beginning to get connected and acquainted, but if you're spending more time with each other than with your own families, then I think we all have this little, connection, and I think that's what's amazing about nuclear medicine.
I love that. Thank you. Christy, anything else?
No, nothing else. That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Well, if you wouldn't mind staying on the call in case anybody has any questions for you in the chat or at the end of the Q&A, that would be great if you have time to do that. I'm going to go on to some information about admission. So now that you've heard about the program, how do you apply? How do you go about getting into the program?
All right, so I think it's me. So yeah, let's talk about the program. So if we kind of captured your attention now in terms of how to apply, we'll kind of talk about kind of that process. So our program has one intake per year. So our intake, we start our program every fall in September. So the application period is currently open right now. So it opened October 1st and it runs till April 30th. That's when it closes. Our program is a continuous 24-month program, full-time. So you start in September 1 year, and then you finish kind of 2 years after that. So it is a continuous program. Next slide, I will kind of talk about the kind of the process of the application. So the process is actually pretty straightforward, and it's done all online. So when the application cycle is open, which it is right now, you log in, and you can always kind of check your application kind of online with the through the account. The one thing is that when you start your application, it doesn't actually go to admissions until you pay the application fee, which I believe, it's not correct, but I believe the application fee is $90. Last I checked. But the key thing to take away there is that you can start your application and kind of build to it, but it doesn't go to admissions until you actually finish submitting it. So I could see that Minter did correct it. It is $90. Once you, I think the first step that you want to kind of do when you're thinking about applying and making that decision to apply is to check your entrance, check our entrance requirements and see that you meet them. And if you don't, there is opportunity to upgrade your requirements as needed. So it could be upgrading your grade to meet the minimum average that we're looking for, or it can also mean if you're missing the course altogether, to take the a equivalent course to meet that requirement. So with those type of questions with regarding kind of the equivalent courses, I do direct your attention or direct those questions to program advising, because they can really answer those questions for you a lot better than what we can do. So, but that's kind of a bit of a summary of like that process. Now, when you're applying, all your documents do need to be electronic. So you do need to upload them as PDFs. So if you do have some of your documents as paper copies, you do need to scan them in and turn them into PDFs before you can upload them. And once you have all the requirements ready, it's just a matter of paying the application fee, and that's when your application will go to admissions and it shows up in our system. So now I'll talk about the entrance requirements. So all these are posted on our website, but as you can see, if I were to kind of just give you a bit of a brief summary, you'll notice that it is big on the sciences. So our program is well suited for people who have a high aptitude for the sciences. But because we also work with people a lot in nuclear medicine, there's a lot of kind of that patient interaction. There is a requirement for a good proficiency in kind of the communication skills. So that's why there's that requirement in there. Now, in addition to those courses that are listed, there is also a requirement for what's called Casper and Snapshot. Those kind of go hand in hand. Now, what Casper is an online test. And what they do is they use some everyday kind of scenarios, or they present you with, let's say, a moral dilemma that you might be presented with. And you need to kind of respond to it, how you'd might interpret that situation, how you'd respond to it. There's really no right or wrong answer. So it's not really something that you can study for it. It's not that type of test. It really is just testing and trying to pull out certain qualities and certain characteristic attributes that would be suitable for working in the field of nuclear medicine. So that's what the Casper test is. The snapshot portion is a video portion. So the Casper is kind of a written portion that's done online, and then there's the snapshot, which is a video style type of assessment where you're presented with a question, you have to answer in a video format, so it's recording you as you answer it. So you can learn more about Casper and Snapshot at their website. So it is, if you search Altus, and we can give it to you at the end as well in terms of the link to it, but it's Altus is the company that does the Casper and Snapshot. Another requirement is the mandatory applicant questionnaire, and this questionnaire is very important. So it does require you to really put some thought into it. What it's going to help you do is it allows you to highlight some of your own academic experiences, some of your personal experiences, let's say some volunteer experience that you might have, that really emphasize some of the skills and qualities that you have that might make you a good fit for our program. So that's the mandatory applicant questionnaire that's also submitted alongside with your application. There's a lot of information there. I think I kind of covered most of that, but I'll give you a little bit of kind of just additional things that we do look at. We do have a preference that the requirements are prereqs are done within the past 5 years. It's not a mandatory requirement, but it's something that we look at to see how recent it is. Because I mean, if it's been done, let's say 10, 15 years ago, and you haven't really done any other additional schooling in the meantime, it might be necessary to do a refresher, just kind of help you with success in the program. We do look at post-secondary education. It's not a requirement, but it is also something we look at to see whether there's the consistent good grades that you have with that education. Yeah, it's good to kind of just do some research about the field, so you have an idea of what nuclear medicine is, and how some of your related experience could make you a good fit for the program. So that was a lot of information. I think I'll pass it over to Christy now to go a little bit more detail in terms of the process of applying.
Okay, so as far as what Thomas said, yeah, everything's digital. So when uploading transcripts, if you have a current transcript that's on paper, you're going to take a picture of it, upload it. If you have one that's you can downloadable from your school, your previous schooling, you can download and then upload. You guys are also good at that. You're better than us anyway. So you don't have to mail in official transcripts, which makes things a little bit easier. And if you're a BCIT student, you can forget it altogether because admissions will access it for you. So as far as admissions go, so once your application is complete, admissions will review it to make sure that everything is like all your boxes have been checked. If there's something that's missing, they'll usually reach out and ask you if you're interested and if you're still planning on submitting it. We do review those incompletes as well, just to make sure that there hasn't been anything that we've missed. Once we get the list of completed applicants, then we go through a process of shortlisting the applicants and reaching out to them once we've selected the successful ones. So we reach out to successful applicants with an acceptance letter, and then your job at that point would be to pay a commitment fee, which says that you do indeed intend to come and hang out with us for a couple of years starting September 2023. And the commitment fee, I believe, is $500. And that goes towards your tuition, I'm pretty sure, as well. Yeah, okay, so as far as you take the program, you get hired right away, because I said to you 100% employment rate, right? But what if you are very keen and you want to go to school? Like, what can you use to piggyback onto your education here for nuclear medicine? Well, you can use it towards a degree in Bachelor of Health Science with MRI, with magnetic resonance imaging. You can also put it towards your Bachelor of Health Science at Thompson Rivers University. There's a Health Leadership Advanced Certificate at BCIT if you're interested, as well as Bachelor of Technology and Technology Management through BCIT as well. And you know what, there might even be more now. There's so much happening, and there's a lot of micro-credentials as well that are coming out. We do encourage our students, all of them upon graduation, to be lifelong learners and stewards of the profession. So don't see this as an inclusive list. If you're fresh out of high school and you're like, well, I'm going to do 2 years, but maybe I'll want to do more, we can definitely sit down and help you come up with some ideas of what might be a cool avenue for you to take. And
I believe you're wanting to pass it over to me at this slide, right, Christy?
This is you, Erin. You're the expert
here.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for all that information. So I'm going to talk about what BCIT offers once you are a student. So after you do all that, you apply, you hopefully get accepted. BCIT really wants to support our students' success throughout their time here. It's not just about getting you in the door. We want to support you along the way. So some of the supports available for all BCIT students, first of all, is our Indigenous Services Department. They have a welcoming gathering place. They offer information on Indigenous specific funding for Indigenous students. They have a number of elders that they're connected to in Indigenous communities, so they're a great resource. Student financial aid and awards. This is where you go to find out about financial aid, bursaries. I know there's a entrance scholarship that is a great one for people to look at. That's based on some of your grades coming into BCIT. So that's something I would urge you to check out if you're interested. Accessibility services. This is for students who are experiencing kind of a longer term illness or disability. So if you need some kind of accommodations in your classes, if you maybe were getting support when you were in high school and you want to continue something like that, accessibility services are people you need to connect with at BCIT, and they will make arrangements for you directly with your instructors. Student health services and counseling, the next one. So we have a full service medical clinic on campus with a doctor and a nurse on staff. It's really great if you have a GP, but you can't get in to see them in a timely fashion, or if you don't have your own family doctor. This is a great resource right on campus. You can normally get in either same day or the next day even. And all their services are confidential. Counseling as well, same thing. It's all confidential. They're not going to give information to your instructors, but they do offer free counseling for students on anything from relationship advice to anxiety and stress management and anything in between. And then finally on this list, we have recreation services. So a great way to kind of blow off some steam after classes or get yourself pumped up before class. We have a full service gym, fitness classes, cardio weight machines. And we also have a huge big screen TV that we have that we air sporting events on. So if there's some massive game going on that everyone's excited about, there's a place where you can hang out and watch that with a bunch of other students and cheer on your team. So again, we just want to keep you supported while you're here. So next slide is about program advising. So as you guys know, Maninder has been in the chat waiting for your questions. I don't see many questions yet, but she's in the chat waiting for some. So the best way to get information after this session, if you have questions about how to apply, about your transcripts or anything, you can connect with our advising department. So their telephone advising, drop-in advising, and email advising is all on the screen here. But their hours do change from term to term, season to season. So I do urge you to check out their website before relying on the information on the screen here. And I would urge you to all stay in touch after this, follow up with us, follow us on social media to get a sense of what BCIT is like. Now, these are our School of Health accounts, so they're all of health sciences on the left here, but we also have a nuclear medicine specific Instagram account that I believe being run by one of our faculty, and it's great. It's so much fun to watch what the nuclear medicine group is doing and see all their fun and meet their little mascot, Silky the Palm. So do check that out as well. And on the right hand side of the screen, we've got a link for BCIT tours. So if you want to tour the BCIT campus, you can connect there. Spend a Day, that's our Student for a Day program that our student mentioned earlier on in this presentation. So if you sign up there, you can schedule a time maybe to shadow one of our students and kind of hang out in our labs and see what the program would really be like. And then, of course, links to info sessions like this one and advising as well. Oh, and speaking of the Instagram, here is our BCIT Nuclear Medicine Instagram. So this is a screenshot I took of some of their recent posts, but they've got some great little videos on there, some great information. And like we were saying earlier, this is a real community, this nuclear medicine group. And so they seem to have a lot of fun together on their Instagram. So now I'd like to take it to some questions and answers. And I don't see any questions from you guys yet. Oh, thank you, Alex, for being the first one to break the ice here. Alex is hoping to apply for September 2024, but he checked the Casper website and the current test dates are for the 2022-2023 admission cycle. This is a very good question, Alex. Does that mean that if I take the Casper test now, I cannot use it for my application for next September's intake? Great question. Maninder?
I can assist with that one. Yes, that's a great question. And that is correct. If you take the test, Casper introduces a new test every September. So in your case, it would be too early to write the test because the results wouldn't be valid. So you want to wait till around September. They may start posting them beforehand to see the available dates for the 2024 intake.
Okay, that's great. So yeah, Alex, just wait a bit on that one. Any other questions? Now is your time to get them answered without having to go through program advising or wait in line.
Yes, keep them coming, even if it's just a small question about, what we do once we're a tech or anything. And questions for Muscan too, feel free.
I'd like to point out that many, I don't know about all, but many of our instructors in the nuclear medicine program at BCIT actually went and took nuclear medicine at BCIT. So our grads go to work for a while. Some of them come back and teach at BCIT. So
how much we love it here.
It's just reinforcing that community feel. Like, you guys just keep coming back.
I know. Well, nuclear medicine, it's a pretty small industry, and it's always an interesting story to see how people hear about it, because not very many people really know about nuclear medicine. So that is something curious. I always ask people when they get into it, like, how did you hear about us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, I was on the side of the soccer field for my son's soccer game, and I asked his mom, where do you work? She mentioned she was running from work. And she's like, oh, I'm in something called nuclear medicine at UBC. And I was like, I know what that is. And she was so excited that I actually knew people that she knew, and was able to connect with her that way, because she was like, most people don't know what I do.
That's funny.
So
yeah,
Alex,
and
question. Alex is saying, do the English and chemistry requirements also need to have done within the past 5 years?
Yeah, I can, because it was a slide that probably went by pretty quickly. So it's not a requirement of our program; it is a preference. And when we say preference, it's actually more. We prefer it mostly because of if it was done too long, because our program does have a lot of science and all those prereqs, like that's why it's within a 5-year recency is a preference, is that it does suit gear you up for success in the program. Because if it's been too long since you've done let's say chemistry or even physics, kind of jumping right back into it might be hard. So that's why the recency preference is there. But we typically review it on a case-by-case basis. And I'll give you an example. We've had someone apply before who was doing a career change and has been out of school for I think it was like 20, 30 years, and was just doing a big career change, in which case they did go back and do a refresher to kind of bring it to a more recent level, just to bring that knowledge back to a more recent refresher. But for example, if you're already going to school, or if you have continued on school, let's say high school is a few years ago, but you've been doing school, that's something that we also kind of look at too, is that kind of continuity. So I don't know if I answered that. I'm not sure if Melinda or Christy, if you want to add anything to that.
No, I would just say, Alex, like, you can always reach out to us and kind of and I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, be a bit more specific about your situation, because I think we could give you a bit more information based on, like, knowing, okay, why are you waiting the year to apply? Perhaps you're upgrading, or I'm not sure. So feel free to reach out to us. We're super happy to respond to any questions privately as well.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to that, to say that if you're looking to upgrade, you can consider taking high school level courses as well. If you have other post-secondary behind you, but maybe need to refresh some of those specific courses. And there is tuition-free upgrading available through BCIT for the high school equivalent courses. We don't typically offer chemistry on its own through our flexible learning or part-time studies. And so I've put in a link for a site where there's pretty much all the school districts that offer high school courses are listed here as well.
Maninder, that's awesome.
Yes, that's what I was thinking, Meninda, was many of the school districts, continuing education departments have free courses for high school upgrading now. So it's a wonderful resource.
I mean, some of our students, they've graduated a long time ago, but they've done like a degree in biochemistry or something. And so of course, like, their Chem 12 is longer than 5 years, but we don't care. We are super happy that you've done all that post-secondary in the meantime. So that's what I mean. It's a bit case by case. And it looks like Rafa has a question too.
Yes, Maninder, perhaps you could address this question from Rafa about out-of-country grades.
I can. So for this program, because the entrance requirements are at the high school level, Rafa, you don't need to get an ISIS or an international credential evaluation completed of your studies. As long as your transcripts are either already in English or you have them officially translated into English, you can upload your high school and any post-secondary transcripts you have, and they will be reviewed and assessed by our admissions department without the international credential evaluation. That is typically only required when you're applying for a program at BCIT that has post-secondary requirements. That's typically when we require that.
Okay, if there's no more questions, I just wanted to draw your attention to the screen here. Some email addresses that are very useful. There's Christy Owen 6, KON6 at bcit.ca for Christy, and Thomas_Wong at BCIT for Thomas. Thomas got the easier email address. Program advising, his email is on there again. So please do follow up. Christy and Thomas, of course, are great resources for the program and the profession, and program advising is for all of those admissions and application questions. So again, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate everyone taking the time to chat tonight and to listen to us. And we hope to hear more from you all soon.
Thanks so much, you guys. Feel free to reach out. Thanks, Muskan, for coming as well.
Thank you, everyone.